Well, today I'm going to give you excellent tips on how to ace your video interview. Let's get started. I'm going to share my screen so you can see exactly what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about essential life skills, but we're getting into the career portion of those skills. As I've been doing a 2-hour session on Sunday afternoon for a local group here in San Diego on essential life and career skills. Today we talked about resumes, how to be resume ready, what you need to do to ensure that your resume is ready to pass the automated portion of the review and get into the hands of a human so that they can be impressed by what you have to offer. Therefore, making you the best qualified, and they need to look no further for a candidate. Now we want to talk a little bit more about the interview process. Now in the interview process, it's a little tricky because you may be good at writing how good you are. You may be good at what other people think how good you are. You may be good at your job, but are you good at talking about yourself? Most people are not comfortable with that. Most people don't really want to do that because they're humble, and that's okay. But there are times that you're going to have to stand up and stand out. And this is one of those times. A video interview is a lot different than a physical face-to-face interview. You have the same pressure or more, because if you're not comfortable behind the camera or in front of the camera, then how do you give off those good vibes? How do they know that you're sincere? What do you do with your hands? What do you do with your notes? How do you see your notes without them knowing that you're looking? These are essential, because when you're in a physical face-to-face interview, no matter how many people, no matter how much pressure, you are allowed to look at your notes. I mean, you're not allowed to read your resume verbatim, but if you have notes, they don't mind you looking at them. I mean, when I'm sitting on a panel, if you needed notes because you heard a question or you didn't understand the question, or you had to write down some notes from the question just so you could gather your thoughts, don't have a problem with that. Because overall, we will know if you are the right person for the job. And I say that to say this: don't sweat it. Don't get so tense. Don't get so bothered by what you think is going to happen, because you may create that situation for yourself. And a lot of times we create the pressure and the stress that's unnecessary. So I want to give you some really interesting video interviewing tips that's going to make sure that you ace your interview, no matter if it's live or if it's face-to-face, online or offline. You're going to be able to ace your interview. So I always talk about mindset and skill set in my sessions for critical or essential life and career skills. But today we want to talk about more than just who's presenting. We're talking more about, resumes. This is about career. This is like, how do I get to the next level? How do I pass that hump, the resume hump? How do I get over the interview hump? So I'm not going to spend a lot of time about me, but just if you haven't seen this particular session, or if you have not seen any of my essential life skill sessions, then here's just a little bit about who I am and what I do, and so you'll understand the context. I welcome you, if you're new I'm the founder of LD Coaching Solutions, which is a coaching and mentoring company and consulting company. And over the last 15 years, I've been dealing with human resources, staffing, and mentoring and helping veterans get a handle on their transition from the military to the civilian life. And a lot of them have a question about their resume, as well as companies and what choices should they make. Should they go with the entrepreneurial side, or should they go with the employee? It just depends on what kind of ideas they have, what type of background, and just really, it's up to them. What do you want to do? And so that's how I coach people when we have those conversations. It's not about me, it's about what do you want to do? And therefore, I'm giving you good information today about resumes as well as the interview process. My background as far as education, I got a BA in sociology with a minor in human resource admin, certified personal coach, strategic intervention, relationship, career, business master, project manager. So as you can tell, I've done a few things as far as education goes. I've been with the Department of Defense for over right about 28 years now. So I've seen a lot of things happen. And as far as resumes, I've probably reviewed, I would say at least close to 1,000 or so resumes over the last 15 years, and probably hired maybe 60 to 80 people, and created positions for many of those positions that I actually hire people into. So this is from your entry level all the way up to your 13, 14 position in the government service. Personal development consultant, trainer, and writer, published a book called 8 Ways to Be 10 Times Better, which is a personal and professional development guide. I'm the founder of LD Coaching Solutions and my new company called Next Era Learning LLC. That is an edutech, upskilling, e-learning platform that I'm creating as we speak. Today, we're going to talk about the interview. The interview. Ask yourself, how do I look? Why would you say, how do I look? Why would that question be the initial conversation starter? One, you need to know how you look, because the first impression you give to an employer or potential employer or the interviewer on that panel, when you walk through the door, they want to know, do they look the part? I can give you a story that it'll trip you out. There has been times when I thought that I needed to dress a certain way because of the level of position and the pay of the position. I could not have been more incorrect, but there was a time when I was working as a contractor overseas, and the company, they had some information that another contractor that I knew some people that worked there were hiring for a 6-figure salary. And I was like, wow, to be a contractor making, tax-free money, 6 figures sounded really good. So when I got back to the States, I looked the company up. I had sent my resume. They were impressed. They were like, hey, you're already there. You know what's going on. Great. Come on in for an interview. Well, in my mind, dress to impress, dress for that particular position. So I talked to a friend of mine, and he said, oh, yeah, man, you need to do this, this, and this. Guess what he told me to do? That's a 6-figure income. You got to dress like an executive. Stop by the mall, got, fitted for a nice suit, tie, shirt, the whole thing, top to bottom. Brand new shoes, brand new suit. I was ready to go. I was only in town for probably 3 days, but hey, you know what? I'm going to their offices, headquarters. I'm going to impress because I want this job. I arrive at the office. I go in, sit down for the interview, and they come in the conference room. I mean, they got khakis on. They got nice polo shirt. Here I am in a suit and tie. And then it dawned on me, maybe I'm overdressed for this interview. Now, I'm not saying that I'm overdressed for any interview, but throughout the conversation, it felt like they did not match me with the position, no matter what the pay was. The pay was because it was a position in Kuwait, but you're going to travel between Kuwait and Iraq. So if you're traveling between Kuwait and Iraq, there's no use for a three-piece suit. Therefore, I looked back on that experience and said, maybe I didn't have the right information. So your initial job search, your market intelligence is key. What is it about that company that attracts you? Dig into what that company culture is. What do some of the employees look like as far as what they wear? What are the work schedules? If you know somebody there, ask those questions. If you don't know anybody, look it up. This is public information. You can see what they do. You could probably see some of the people online. And then you would find out that if you're taking a job, even though it's six figures because of the danger. It's not six figures because you're an executive. So I learned that real quick. So that was just a story about, how do I look? Am I dressed for the part? Because even if you're on screen, and more so on screen, they're going to be looking to figure out this first impression. So that first, 2 to 10 seconds, they need to know that you're the real deal and you look professional, and you're ready to take on the world with that interview. So that's kind of the first thing you want to look at is, or understand, how do you look? That's your first thing, right? Dress to impress. Now, we'll get into some of that in a minute as well. So let's move on. Today, we're going to talk about video interviewing tips, the new normal. I call it the next normal, but most people call it the new normal. So let's use the new normal because that's kind of what people like. Video interviews are becoming the norm. I think you already know that. But if you don't, let's get into what that's all about, because there may be some things that may surprise you. Some video interviews are live. Some video interviews are not. Very interesting, isn't it? Some video interviews are actually recorded with an app that the company sends to you. And then you actually have an AI or a system, artificial intelligence, that actually helps you to hear the question, repeat the question if you need to, and you respond. And they record everything that you say. And of course, they record everything that you do. So they're looking at your mannerisms. They're looking at what your hands are doing. They're looking at what your facial expressions are. And they're using machine learning to see, is this person legit? Is the person telling the truth? What's the chance that this person is reading something that's not about themselves? They're looking at your eyes. They're looking at your expressions. They're using AI and machine learning to do all of that. Did you know? I didn't. And now that I know, it makes sense. So during this time of social distancing, our clients, being the people that the employer, right, is looking to bring on, they're conducting video interviews instead of meeting candidates in person. So here's a few tips that I want to talk to you about today for delivering a productive video interview. Now I'm going to talk a little bit from the company perspective, but I'm going to talk more from the job seeker perspective. Like I said, there are two types of video interviews, live and recorded. Yes, some companies use software or an app like HireVue, and another one I think is called SparkView or Spark, something like this, to administer their video interview process. So as you know, with video interviews are starting to become the norm in the hiring process. They've replaced the traditional, or what I would call outdated, phone scene that you would actually call in and do an actual phone interview. So that's not really happening no more. Why? Because you have Zoom. I mean, that's pretty much the short answer. You'll be asked the same standard questions about why you are the best fit for the job. Why do you want to work for this company? And you will have a few questions to learn more about. They want to know about your character, and they want to know about your work ethic. So these questions are common questions, And so they will always ask those type of questions. Earlier, somebody asked me to give some examples about what would be asked in an interview and how would you handle them. And so like we say, you're going to have the common questions that you can always bank on. Why you want to work for the company, why you're the best candidate or why you're the best fit. Some character and work ethic questions. When this happened, what did you do? When you failed to accomplish a task or meet the goal or meet the budget requirements, how did you handle that situation? These type of things. The difference is that you won't be speaking directly with the person in this situation. Instead, you'll be reading questions from an app and recording your answers through the video system. Sounds crazy, huh? But guess what? This is the next normal. Post-pandemic interview process. Okay. So we want to know, how do you prepare for your interview? What do you prepare in the settings? Like for instance, if you're preparing for an interview and you want to know necessarily what do you need to do? How do you need to set up your environment? These are the type of things that you need to consider, without trying to figure out how to say it. Yeah, you have to consider what is your environment like so you can present yourself in the best way. All right, so we're going to talk a little bit about what the employer may want to do, as well as what you as the job seeker should be doing for the interview. So the first thing you want to do as an employer is be flexible. So the employer being flexible with the time, because you may prefer to have an evening interview, or you may prefer to have a day interview or afternoon, because you may have another job, or you may have kids that you are taking care of because you're remote working now, right? But if you're not working, then you're remote home and social distancing and all during this pandemic. And so the employer is like, okay, well, is it better in the afternoon? Is it better in the evening? So most of the time, the employers are pretty flexible, unlike, when you're in an office and you have to show up between 8 and 5:30 or something like this. And so that's really key to understanding. Most employers will give you kind of a flexible option there. You want to arrive early, just like if you were going to a physical interview. Arrive earlier, additional 5 or 10 minutes. What's the difference? Well, you got to test your camera. You got to test your microphone. You got to test your speakers. You got to make sure your settings are right. You got to make sure if they're saying, hey, use Zoom, you use Zoom. If they say use WebEx, use WebEx. You may have to set up an account, whatever it takes. I mean, most of them are free anyway, so it's not going to hurt you to set up a new account in that particular, for that reason, so to speak. You also want to plug into your Ethernet, right? So if you have wireless in your house, you probably have a wireless router. With the wireless router, you have access to plugs in the back. Those plugs, even though you normally may use wireless, if you have a laptop, you take that laptop in there, you just plug in the wire, what we call a Cat5 cable. It's bigger than a phone cable. Plug it in the back, and you got uninterrupted access. So if you're plugging in that Ethernet, the reason why you would rather do that is to have less congested internet signal. Because even though we may have, wireless internet, we may have a service with the provider, Cox or AT&T or whoever it is, you still are sharing that internet. And when you're sharing that internet, there could be some congestion, and then your signal gets a little weak, and then obviously you get blurred video. Don't want that during your video interview. The next thing, you want to be sure and close all applications on your computer. Your computer is obviously where you live during this, social distancing, remote working. And so you may have multiple screens up, multiple windows, multiple applications. Well, guess what? That's pulling bandwidth as well. You want to make sure that you shut that down and focus on the one thing, which is your interview, and make sure the bandwidth is focused on that. And with that being said, you should have a quality video and a quality interview. You want to silence your mobile and any other devices that make noise. I think that's pretty clear. If you are planning to screen share something, which it depends on the type of job. I've had a job where I had to do an actual Excel spreadsheet and determine different manipulations of data. So I can see how that might be an issue. So if you're applying for an analyst position or data mining type position, and you have to present some information to the interviewer, they may want you to do it live. And so they may say, hey, share your screen, and you actually input that information in that formula or the pivot table or whatever it may be into the computer so they can actually see you're doing it, and they can grade you on that, and boom, you pass, you get the job. Well, sometimes it works that way. All right. So what are some video best practices, video interview best practices that you want to really hone in for yourself? Then there are a couple of things that you want to make sure you're doing. Okay. Some of these things are: do your research on the company. You definitely want to do your research on the company. Who will do the interview? So you may get a call from an admin saying, hey, we want to set up an interview with you. The admin is not going to be asking you to interview questions if it's a live interview. Somebody else is going to be doing that. Maybe the hiring manager, maybe the selecting official, maybe there'll be a supervisor in there, maybe there'll be somebody else, maybe there'll be 4 or 5 people, depending on the level of the position. Well, ask the question to the admin person that contacts you. Who will do the interview? So you'll have that information available. Here's 2 reasons why you'll have it available. One, for this second bullet, when you do get on the interview, live interview, and you're having that interaction, let's say you get cut off, you may forget who you're talking to because you're in the moment, right? They'll announce themselves, you may not write it down, but if you already have that information and you know who it is, even if they say their name or not, it's okay. But you need to get their phone number as well. So hopefully they'll present that information to you up front. When you get the phone number, you post that right next to your computer, just in case the call drops. You know how internet works. For some reason, you may be in the middle of your interview and that call drops. Now, what are you going to do? They want to know if you're prepared. What if they turn it off on purpose just to test you because of the type of job or position you're applying for? I don't know, but it could happen. Then they're waiting for you to call back. You dial in, bam. They're like, wow, you handle it very well, and you continue on with the interview. Have your resume within reach and eyesight. How does that work? If you have a laptop, you obviously are looking at the webcam. While you're looking at the webcam, you should have your resume right there, or have points on it that you want to highlight. Now, you're not reading from your resume, you're just highlighting things, because if a question comes up and you know you have some good bullets that you can address, it's right there. Okay. Now, a lot of the questions that we're using these days are behavior-based interviews, BBI. BBI is your behavior-based interviews. And so those questions are scenario-based. What did you do in this situation? What did you do in that situation? Right? We want to know that you handled it. We want to know how you actually can explain in a coherent way a story about that particular situation and what was the outcome. And I'll get into what that, how to construct that in a few minutes, but we call it the STAR method. So these are some of the things you want to have that resume present, have it right there where you're not looking over here, you're not looking over there, you're looking straight ahead because the resume is right there. You can easily answer those questions. You want to post notes around your monitor or your screen. If you have questions that you want to ask during the interview, mostly after the interview, because you're not going to really cut in and start asking questions. But as soon as it's over, they say, hey, do you have any questions? Boom, it's right here, it's right here, it's right here. It's somewhere right there around your monitor so that you can address those easily. You don't have to look away. You can keep your eyes on the screen. You want to have a pen and paper available as well. There is nothing wrong with making notes, and you can ask them or you can let them know. When I'm talking, or during the interview, or when I'm speaking with someone, I want to make sure I capture the right information in order to respond properly. I'll have a notepad here, so sometimes I'm going to write some notes. Is that okay? What are they going to say? No? I mean, there's just no reason that you would tell somebody no in that situation. You want to dress the part. Here's something that you really want to understand if you get nothing else. Like that first question I asked, how do I look? This is really the essence of that. Dress the part, be professional. If you're interviewing for a high-level position, put on a nice, button down, maybe, wishbone or button down collar, nice long sleeve, nice polo looking type shirt. You're looking professional, you're looking clean. Make sure you groomed well, your face not shiny, the light hitting you and you're reflecting into the camera and blinding the person that's looking at you. No, keep it comfortable. It's better to have low light than to have too much light. Just so you know. Yeah, I was just thinking about, wow, that could be interesting. And like I said, you want to dress, and this is psychological. We know that you're not, going to be seen other than, from your chest up, right? You're not showing your stomach, you're not showing your hips, you're not showing your feet. That's okay. But what you're doing is psychologically putting yourself in the seat of a physical interview. You want to present yourself as if you're uncomfortable in front of these strangers that's asking you these questions. But you become comfortable because you're confident in your answers. No matter if you're physically there or if you're sitting at home, no matter where you are taking or conducting the interview or participating in that interview, you want to look the part and you want to feel the part. So psychologically, when you dress from head to toe as if you were physically going, that will put you in the right frame of mind, in your body in the right frame of position and spirit, so that you can respond professionally. Also, you want to have a glass of water or glass of ice or juice or something that's near you. So when you do find yourself getting dry mouth or coughing or being a little agitated because you're not answering the questions like you thought you would, grab you a cup of water, you take a sip, boom, keep it moving. So here I want to give you a few additional tips to prepare that setting around you. Where do you sit? What do you say? How do you sit? How do you position the camera? Should it be up? Should it be down? Should it be straight? There's some interesting things about that. Your audio, should you have a mic on you? Should you just use your webcam mic? Should you wear the headphones so that you can block out all the noise? There's a lot of ways that you can handle this. So here's a few tips on that. You want to sit at a table or a desk with the plain neutral background. So you want to make sure that you have whatever you need in front of you, but nothing behind you, right? Since this is L3 Coaching Solutions, I have an L3 logo in my background. But normally you would have plain background if it's a wall, or, I mean, even if you have it in a place where the living room is behind you or the kitchen's behind you, as long as nobody is walking behind you and distracting, it's fine. It's your house. I mean, it's totally up to you. And I wouldn't have a problem with that as the interviewer. So everybody understand that you're at home. So don't worry about trying to look like you're in an office. Instead, opt for the setting with the strongest internet connection. That's really the key. You're only trying to make sure they can hear you and see you so that you can get through the interview in a professional way. You want to check your webcam height. This is critical. There are so many times that people look into a camera, or they may have a phone. If you have your phone and you're using that as your webcam during an interview, because it's available, because that's what you have to use, then try to find some way to mount it so it'll stay still. That is a very distracting thing for your webcam to be moving while you're responding to questions in an interview, no matter how good you are. So you want to check your height. If you have it stable, you know, like I do, you want to check the height, make sure you're in the middle of that particular box, which you call your screen. Elevate your laptop to an eye level or above to avoid staring down into the camera. Sit about 2.5 to 3 feet away from your webcam to get the optimum look. So they can only see certain parts of you and it doesn't look off or odd, then that's the good box to be in. So that's your key or core box for your video interview, or pretty much any conversation that you have on a webcam. You want to adjust the lighting in the room to shine on your face, not behind you, not one side, not leave shadows. You just want to have, you know, where they can see you clearly. You want to check the quality of your audio. A lot of times, even when I'm doing the videos and I'm doing trainings, sometimes the connection is really good. Sometimes the connection starts off really bad and eventually it gets better. I don't know that until somebody either tells me or I listen to the replay and then I'm like, oh, it's terrible, right? So these are some of the things that you want to check beforehand to make sure you have good quality audio. You can do things to help you with that. As long as the internet connection is good, then you can add to the ambience. You can soften the room with fabric if you need to do that to lessen any echo from an empty room. And so if you don't have a lot of appliances and your best connection is in a room that really has nothing in there, then you may get this kind of weird echoey sound. Then you can go ahead and put some fabric or some pillows or quilts, things like that, just kind of in the room to cushion the sound. It's very scientific how that works, but hey, it works. And the last thing is try to keep your kids and pets out of the room. Point blank, period. We understand, believe me, if you are already hired and your employer understands your living situation, you could be in a staff meeting, your kids could come in, your animals can run through and make noise, you turn it on, turn it off. As far as the audio, they understand. But when you're trying to get a job and you need to impress them, not so much. So we're going to talk a little bit about impressing during the interview. So you might want to pay attention to that one. So sometimes you're engaged in that interview. Would you think this question is going to be asked? Maybe or maybe not. But I can tell you, as a person writing interview questions, this is a question that I've asked. Tell me a time that you disagreed with your supervisor on a policy issue, and how did you handle it? Here's what's funny about that. I created senior level manager positions to work for me. I was on a panel of people putting together the actual questions. I wasn't the interviewer, but I was the selection official or the final say on who gets hired. This was one of the questions that I asked the senior level position. And one of the people that were being interviewed was somebody that actually worked for me at that time. So how do you think that felt? You know, so this can happen. This is life. This is how it really happens. So be prepared for things like that. What are interviewers looking for? Just like I said earlier, I gave you some really interesting tips, good tips on what you need to do to prepare your room, prepare yourself, prepare your equipment, make sure that you are interview ready, right? This is what it's about when you're dealing with a video interview. You need to engage fully in that interview. So what are the interviewers looking for in a video interview? They want you to look into the camera when you're speaking, looking into the camera when you're speaking. Because if you're physically there, most of the time, the culture of this environment, the USA, European culture is that, hey, you should be looking somebody in the eye. That makes, you know, that shows confidence, that shows character, that shows integrity. You know, it's they take everything to be surrounded by looking them in the eye, right? Most cultures are not like that. They just want to know that you're telling the truth by proving it. Therefore, I say, when you're looking into the camera, you can be looking into it, you can look over it, you can look below it. Doesn't matter to me. As long as you're looking that direction and I can see that you're responding to me, then we're fine. Because the information that I hear from you is going to tell me what it's all about, what you're all about. I see your resume. I know if you're qualified or not. If you got an interview, that means that your resume said you are qualified. Now, I just need to hear from you to see if you're a right fit, if you can handle the pressure. Can you respond to questions in a firing hose or in a firing line? This is how interviews are structured. Give quality, results-oriented responses. When you reply to a question, that question should be in what I call the STAR method. So be a STAR. STAR method responses are: give me the situation, tell me the task or the goal, what action did you take, and what results, what were the results you got from that action? Tell the story. That's what interviews are for. And on your resume, if you write your accomplishments in that STAR method way, those particular accomplishment statements will help you to respond to interview questions. The third thing you want to do is try turning off your camera. So the camera that's pointed at you, you may want to turn that off, or not the camera that's pointed at you. Sorry, don't do that, because then they won't see you. Turn off the camera that is in the video. Your camera, yes, you're transmitting so they can see you, but then there's a camera that's on the screen that you can see yourself. You can turn that one off and just answer the questions without, am I looking okay? Is there something wrong? You know, you'll start trying to figure all those things out and you'll kind of be distracted. So you can turn it off. Now, if the person on the other end distracts you and you just want to hear their voice, then hey, turn off their camera. That's okay, because you control all of that yourself. The last thing, be sure and smile. Smiling shows that you're friendly and it makes you feel like you're communicating clearly. So you still want to communicate clearly. You still want to be conscious of what you say and how you say it. You want to make sure you're using your terms and your words and your tenses correctly. That is true, but speak normal. Be human. Just be who you are, and they'll figure that out. You know, most interviewers are not that critical about how you say different things, because in the world of interviewing, the nonverbals speak louder than the verbals. And some people may think just because it's a video or it's online that doesn't count. Well, let me tell you, it still counts. Not as much, but it does still count. Here's one of the most important parts of what the interviewers really look for. This may surprise you, but it's true. Send a thank you. Just saying thank you 6 or 8 hours after the interview. Think about it. There are people that may rush to send one right after the interview, or they may send one an hour after the interview. If they have 10 people lined up throughout the day, which they may have 5 or 10, just depending on how many people applied, how many people were that qualified. Most time there's not that many, but let's say it was 10 people throughout the day. They're going to give each person about 30 minutes. So every hour they're going to do one, take a break, do another one, take a break. So there's 10 hours of this going on. Let's say you're right in the middle, you're like number 5. So they're not going to finish for probably another 5 to 6 hours. They're not even going to know anything about you saying hello or goodbye or thank you for the next 6 hours. So you might as well give them time to finish their day and get an opportunity to open up the computer and actually read their emails. Guess what? When they open it up, your email may show up right about the time they open it up. Everybody else's is in there, but since yours popped up, guess what? They're going to read yours first. And everybody else's is going to be there as backup. And so you, and everybody's not going to do that. So let's say 3 out of 10 people actually said thank you. You're going to be that one. and it's going to be right at the time they open their computer, their email. So definitely is a big deal. It's a big deal. When somebody says thank you, it means a lot. It may not sway, the person to just choose you because of that, but what it does is say that you have integrity and gratitude. So definitely say thank you to your interviewers. But as you know, I mentioned earlier that HireVue and another company, I think it's Spark, something like that. They actually have these apps or software that companies use to perform these video interviews. Most companies don't have anything in place to do that. Anybody can get on a Zoom or WebEx, My Teams, MS Teams, so on and so forth, and conduct face-to-face interviews. Not a problem, online. So that can happen, but it's so much better when you have a system that's set up for that. And therefore, HireVue and the Spark company, they're leaders in the industry for this, and they've been doing it for some time. One thing it does, because they have assessments associated with the interview process, and so they help to screen people without the bias that a human being would have. And this is something I talk about on a research paper or a white paper that I recently finished called The Evolution of Our Future within the Fourth Industrial Revolution. When we talk about AI and some of the shortcomings of AI and machine learning, the human bias is embedded in the programming. And therefore, you have these biases that are programmed. Well, most of the programming today is done to a point where they're sifting through some of that and reprogramming and making sure that you have an unbiased software or app out there to handle the AI that you're buying for this type of purpose, because this is critical to have no bias, so you can get the right people in there. You can definitely work on your D&I or diversity and inclusion programs with this AI, machine learning based robotics or automated program. And therefore there's no human bias involved in who gets hired and who doesn't. So this is the new normal. Like I said, post-pandemic, this is what you're going to see. So you might as well get used to it right now. So part two, we're going to kick this in gear, because I know without a shadow of a doubt, you don't only want to perform well in your video interview because you have an opportunity to wow or impress the people that are interviewing you. You have the opportunity to take control of your future by sitting in front of the camera versus sitting in front of physical live people that are 10 feet away, that's got you nervous in a room that's foreign to you. So here's an opportunity for you to excel. So you have to take advantage of this opportunity. How do you wow them? How do you impress during an interview? Well, let's talk about that. The first thing is, confidence is good. Boasting or arrogance, bad. The least effective way to impress an interviewer is to share your own high opinions of yourself. Let's say confidence is good, but when it slips into boasting, the hiring manager will simply think, yeah, right. Maybe you're true, maybe you're not true. I'll be the judge of that. Now, they may not say it outright, but you can tell when somebody is looking at you like, come on, man, come on. You're gloating, you're boasting, you're sounding a little arrogant because you're so good. Now, you may be that good, but to say it may not come across that way. And most hiring managers will find it a little off-putting when you're boasting, bragging, and being arrogant. Confidence, good. Boasting and arrogance, not so good. The plain fact is this. In an interview, the hiring manager rarely believes anything you say about yourself, but they do believe the conclusions they form about you. So when they're talking among each other, when there's 3 or 4 panelists and they interview you and you walk out of the room, They're going to talk amongst each other about how arrogant you sound. So your goal in an interview should be to give them the evidence, give them the proof, right? They need to reach that conclusion. What is the right conclusion you want them to reach? Then that's what you need to deliver. That's you being awesome. You have to show that you're awesome. You have to talk about proofs and evidences of how awesome you are. So to impress the interviewer, your best bet is to share facts and concrete examples without any embellishment. Your opinions of yourself actively get in the way of building trust. That's why I say right here, speak with proof and facts about yourself. Don't tell, sell. Something I learned in network marketing a long time ago, they say facts tell and stories sell. Well, guess what? In this situation, you need to tell stories. So funny as it may seem, it wasn't just for sales and in real estate, it ain't for sales and marketing and network marketing or any business. Stories sell everywhere, every time. You need to craft a story that helps you to build trust. You give clear examples, and you're not just talking about facts. You're actually telling them facts in a story and building the trust with clear examples. This is how you do it. So when you say, I'm a self-starter and I'm a hard worker, they won't believe a word of it because you're just saying, that's who I am. But wait a minute. When you share a few brief, vivid examples of times when you took the initiative on a tough project, and you show them with the STAR method that I talked about, situation, right? Task, or what's the goal, action, and the results. When you use that method and you have this story, they would conclude you are a hardworking self-starter without you ever saying so. So you don't have to tell them what you want them to know. You will have to give them a story around the situation, and then they'll come to the conclusion that you were as good as you say you are. Why not? Handle it that way. And that's a better way of handling it. So what are the interviewers looking for? Context, action, results, or situation, task, action, results. At the end of the day, they just want to know that you can give them an actual story in a very short format, 2 sentences or 3 sentences. When they ask you a question, what did you do? How did you handle it? What were the results? Boom, boom, boom. That's what they want to know. So really hone in on CAR or STAR, and that will get you to where you want to be. So before the interview, think of relevant examples from your past where you have situations that are factual, able to be verified by your references, and can be distilled into 2 or 3 minute answers. 2-minute answers are probably better. They don't want you to be long-winded because that really is a pain, especially doing a video interview. I mean, 2 to 3 minutes in sitting in front of somebody, they're looking at the clock, you know, and they're like, hey, we appreciate your answer, but you know, you could have said that in 3 sentences, but you instead took 10 sentences or 15 sentences, you know, 2 to 3 or 4 minutes talking about one issue. And you're really trying to impress, but you're actually embellishing to a point where it's not helping you at all. So if you want to impress, then you need to keep it short, keep it in the form of situation, task, action, result. That'll take you over the top, and you'll have a winning solution for your interview. Now, would you like to maybe put some of these into practice? Well, I've jotted down a few that I can maybe give you some examples real quick. Here's what they may ask. This is how you may want to respond. So here's an example. Tell me a little bit about yourself. What's the first thing you want to do? Tell them about yourself. That's not really what they're asking you. They don't want to know that you were born in 1975, that you went to high school, graduated from college, You finally went to the military, you went overseas for about a year for spring break. That's not what they're asking you. You want to give them a short 2-minute maximum synopsis of your professional career. Stick to the facts and highlight your more recent and relevant work. Whatever applies to that job, whatever can impress them about what you've done that pertains to that job that you're looking to get hired into, that's what you want to talk about. Another one be, what are your strengths, right? Short and sweet, but makes you think. Don't give your opinion in this situation. They don't want your opinion. A lot of people do it that way. Say, other people often comment that I'm good with, and then you name, I'm good with typing, I'm good with communication, I'm good with team dynamics, I'm good with leadership. Other people often comment that I'm really good at, doing pivot tables on Microsoft Excel. I'm confident you'll hear that from several people when you check my references. This is a way to handle that better. Another one is, tell me about a time when, and there's a variety of situations. So let's say, tell me about a time when you failed to deliver a service in a satisfactory manner to one of your customers. How did you handle it? You should answer virtually every behavioral-based question or interview question like this in the same format, the STAR format. Situation, task, action, results. Use facts, not opinion, using the STAR method that we mentioned already. Interviewers will rarely believe your opinion. So you want to use the STAR method to get to the results. I'd like to leave you with this. Interviewers will rarely believe your opinions, but will often believe your facts. Point blank, period. Particularly when you mention that your references will confirm them. So keep your opinions to yourself and let the facts speak for themselves. Use the STAR method, and that will take you where you want to go. Is your resume ready? Are you interview ready? It's up to you. It's time to take your career to the next level. Thank you for attending. I appreciate your attention. I'm Rashid Hill. I'm the founder of LV Coaching Solutions and the EduTech e-learning platform called Next Era Learning LLC. As the author of 8 Ways to Be 10 Times Better, here is one way that you can be 10 times better. Get your resume ready, get your interview up to gear, up to snuff, and you're good to go. Your career journey is not at the end, it's at the beginning. Reinvent yourself, reimagine how good you can be, and you will be that. The journey of 1,000 miles starts with the first step. This is your new first step. I appreciate your time. I look forward to having more time, more sessions. Career readiness is where I live, and I like to impart good information to my audience. So if you have any comments, you have any questions, if you have any concerns, anything that you need to know about career readiness, be it resume or interviews or job search, please get in touch with me. Look forward to having that conversation with you. Here to help. You can always go to l3procoach.com. That's l3procoach.com and look up federal resumes if you're interested in a federal position and you need your resume crafted to be the one that gets the attention of the hiring party. Then definitely get in touch with me. Go to l3procoach.com. Look at federal resumes, click on that, and you'll have information to submit your current resume, do a review on that, and then we can get you set up to have an amazing federal resume done. I'm Rashid Hill, and I enjoy having these conversations. Our time is up for now, but I look forward to hearing from you in the future. Thank you.
Recession is opportunity in wolf's clothing.